my god, this one hit. This one really hit hard. It's setting in. This is the second to last episode of the series. It hit hard, right in the heart. It got me. Now, I do love this episode, but this doesn't feel like the end. There's actually literally no boss. Like, there's no final boss, no big boss. Our heroes are stronger than these new Cerebrians. So, like, they're gonna have one final fight in the next episode and whatnot, but it feels so weird to not have a final boss for a series like this, especially because that's what Sentai usually does. But, I know, like, they're doing stuff different here. The last couple of seasons has been kind of a little bit different. So, I'm not... It doesn't hurt it. Like, this episode I thought was really, 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 really well done. There's about seven... You can break this up into about, like, 17 different stories here. They are planning something that this has to be some sort of huge movie or something that's going to come out post-series. They usually do a... movie that takes place after the original series. There's something setting up here because there's no way we're finishing. I swear to God, there was at least 5 things set up in this episode, and they're not finishing them all next week. Not unless they rush it, but I don't think they're going to. The way they've written this story, again, we've had some faults and some stuff that's really really peeved me off, but most 90% of the time, this has been a really good story, really well-paced story. Even when we had what I call like the summer filler, late July, August is usually kind of when they have like a filler almost month, and you have like little sprinkles of stuff. Even that felt like, hey, like there's here. It may look like a filler episode, but there's a whole bunch within. So I love the pacing of this series. Again, we'll talk about it. We'll go into more in depth. But there's no way that this is gonna be all done in one episode. This, again, the second to last episode. So we'll just start. I mean, we'll get right into it here. 2.5 minutes in, just because there's so much. This hit my heart, and it still hurts. And I got goosebumps watching this episode. So we start out this episode with them all training on the stairs, which they've used these stairs, this long staircase. They've used this for shots before in the series. They have all 9 do a roll call, kind of come together and say, hey, like with new members, we gotta get more cooperative with them, and we need a flowing relationship here if we're gonna go into battle, against enemies and whatnot. So they do a roll call 1 to 9, and then they all they all end up going their separate ways because Danielle's like, hey, like, my manga might get published, woohoo! And so the Brown Cerebrian's like, oh, hey, like, let's go talk about this in the cafe. He goes off. Don Pink, who he was looking at his hand, he noticed that he had like a little, I guess, indentation of a ring. It was like white, like his part of his hand was kind of like white where like a ring was. And he's like, hey, like, I gotta go. I'm gonna be moving, so I gotta head out right now too. And then Don Black takes off after him. Cerebrian White takes after them. Kind of follow him, kind of stalk him. We have Don Blue's like, you know what? This is a beautiful day. I'm going to go write haikus. Peace! And so we're down to just the 3, Don Red, the Blue Cerebrian, and then the 6th Ranger here. And they're all just kind of talking. And that's when the... This killed me. This is when, like, if you're gonna try to power scale this series, I feel so bad for you because they, like, depowered the enemy. Like, the new Cerebrians, I feel like, aren't as powerful as they were, like, when they were first introduced. Because what happens is they attack those 3 and they're like, ha! Look at you guys are all separated! We'll beat you 3 and go take care of the rest. Taro gets into gold mode. Sonai goes, gets his shield, and then 6th Ranger changes into his tiger form, and they're beating up. They're beating up on him, and they're like, you know what? I got an idea. We're gonna blindfold ourselves. And so they're blindfolded, beating these people up, and so the new Cerebrian's like, oh, we're out of here. Retreat! Just get out of here. I'm like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be the final boss. At least I thought, and they're not than the gold form. They're weaker than the shield form, which feels like they were weaker because it took all 9 of them, was that 2 episodes ago, to beat them. All three of them. It took all 9 of them to beat them together. And here we are. Our 3 strongest competitors of the series are just 1v1ing them and just kicking their asses. I'm like, are you kidding me? Now, to be fair, Sonai didn't use his shield. Toro didn't use his gold form in that first fight, too. So, I think I mentioned that, like, hey, like, Toro shows his gold form if they, need it. But it doesn't, like, he doesn't need it. Like, he went all out. And we see later in this episode, he's stronger than every single. We'll get into why. But they don't need the gold for. Like, this is the one biggest complaint I've had is, hey, we need to power up the rest of the team up to where Don Red is, and eventually, Sixth Ranger, who I had him being, again, he's probably been the 3rd strongest throughout the whole series here. So I've had him like, hey, like he's like that middle bar that this team needs to reach. And they're not even close. We see later in this episode, they're not even close. And then Toro's like, you thought I was close to you guys? No, I'm God level. You're here on Earth. I'm God level compared to the rest of you. We'll get into the fight later on. But that's the one thing that's consistently annoyed me throughout this episode is the power scaling and how weak the rest of the teams are, or really the rest of the team. And then, now even the secondary Cerebrians are kind of like, hey, we're way behind too. So again, they beat him up. Our new Cerebrians here, our boss Cerebrians retreat. Then we go to, Don Black and we go to Don Pink's story here to start out. Oh, dude, I got goosebumps. My heart took a hit. So we go to them, and first of all, we see Don Pinks turns in his resignation for his job. And, he thinks, like, hey, like, they're not going to care. Like, they know I've been a big bother. And so he kind of tells the boss, like, hey, like, I know, like, I don't deserve to be here. Like, I've been trouble for you. Like, all I've been is trouble for you. So the boss kind of turns away, and you kind of see this facial expression. I'm like, hey. He's like, yeah, you have been. And so then Don Pink starts to walk out, and the boss like, hey, like, come here. I need a hug. He's like, I can't do this. So that's left up in the air. We don't know what happens with that. They hug and they cry it out, and the rest of them are just like, just watching from the sidelines. Do we clap? So, left up in the air. Next scene is literally him coming out of an elevator. We see Don Black right there with Natsumi, and they're like, hey, like, we gotta talk. And so they go to a cafe, sit down. Cerebrian White's in the background. She has like one piece of dialogue here until in like 5 minutes later in the episode. But they sit down, they talk, and they're like, hey, like, we want you to get over Bestial Mio. We want you to just fully move on and be able to move on. And he's like, that's what I'm doing. Like, I'm leaving because I'm trying to move on. I want to, rediscover myself, and so I'm moving away from the city. He doesn't say where he's going, but so he starts to leave. Don Black's like, hey, like, come on, man, like, let's talk this over more. Let's. I want to help you. And so that's when Cerebrian White's like, hey, like, oh, he cares so much for his team. And so, again, she's kind of, peeing over his shoulder periodically, trying not to be noticed by that. So then they start, again, they're standing up talking, Natsumi's still sitting down on a chair. And all of a sudden, a police car, a guy on a bike, police guy on a bike comes by. And he's like, hey, like, I need backup here. Like, I found the murder, whatever he's in for. And so Don Black's like, hey, like, Natsumi, you gonna come with me? And Natsumi just shakes her head, and you got all 4 reactions, and you just see, like, the screen breaks, and you just see, like, oh, she doesn't want to go with them. That hit. And then, God, man, this whole freaking section just broke me, and in a good way. This really broke me. I really felt attached, especially this story. I felt like this story has been really well paced, 95% of the time. So then he starts to flee, get a bunch of police after him. He gets cornered. They all try to start gang up on him and grab him and put him in handcuffs and whatnot. Whoops. And Cerebrian White pops up and just throws everyone, all the cops away. They start running, and then they get up to an area where a bunch of cop cars come. and she shoots the tires. She shot one through the window. The cars start on fire, and Don Black's like, dude, that's overkill. What are you doing? Like, come on, we don't need to do this to them. They're innocent. You know, I'm trying to prove my innocence here, and you're not helping me. And so she's like confused. She had transformed to fire all those arrows, so she de-transforms, looks confused, and he grabs her hand. They start running, and she goes, ah! He grabbed my hand. So she's mentally freaking out. They go running off, running away. Then we go back to the cafe where they're sitting outside, and Don Pink's like, well, I guess I should get going. And now to me is like, hang on. I want to talk to you some more. So they go back to his apartment, or his house. I think it was an apartment. And he goes over to the wedding photos, flips them down. She walks over there. He starts to kind of pack stuff up, man. Oh, he goes, I gotta just get over this. You know, it was just a big dream. I was just dreaming. You know, I was a fool. I was gonna I married a monster. And she goes, yeah, well, I had the same dream. Oh! I remember everything. Oh! Oh! And so, well, I had to break this up. I had to go do something in between, so you're going to see a sharp cut here in the middle of the thing. But that's the gist of the biggest story in this episode. That one was my favorite right there. And again, it's not over. It's still not over. There's still, again, that might be the focus of the movie. I don't know. But they put a good chunk of the episode into that. So then we'll do Daniello and the Brown Cerebrian, because they had like no screen time. So basically it was them, working on a manga in the cafe. He says, hey, like, you're getting sloppy here, so I need you to go back and fix this up. She's like, yep, yes sir, I got you. And then Kaito comes by and's like, hey, like, you guys got a minute to stop? We're like, no. What? No, for you, no. We don't have time to stop for anyone. But Kaito's like, I have this thing, and I think it'll really help make everyone happy. And so they're kind of sitting there puzzled, confused, and they're like, okay, well, we'll do it. So then again, they're off the screen until the end of the episode here. And then, God, this one was really touching too. And this one kind of filters in with the monster of the week, which is that ninja guy who wants to be a king this time. But oh, dude, that hurt. Just leave the man alone. Leave him alone. But before that, we have there's a little thing that Toro, obviously, Toro, Sonai, and Six Ranger kind of talking beforehand, and then after they got attacked, they went to this park, and Toro's like, hey, like, you've talking to the Six Ranger. And he's like, hey, like, you've changed, you become more normal. And he goes, and this really hit me. There's nothing more dangerous than a normal man. I'm like, damn, that was a good line. And so, he's trying to, Six Ranger's like, is that a good thing? You mean that in a good way? He's like, yeah, I mean that in a good, really genuinely good way. And then, Toro's sitting down on this bench, and Six Ranger comes by. He's like, I wonder if now I could beat you in a fight. And Sonai pops out from behind a tree, stalking him, and he goes, I too, I'm not done with our duel. I still want to finish our duel too. So I'm in for this too. And Toro stands up and kind of starts to walk away a little bit and goes, I don't really care about who's the strongest. Like it doesn't. To me, it doesn't matter. It's kind of dumb. Like, I don't care about it at all. And so they're both like, that's very odd of you to say. And this is where Toro starts to just seem completely out of character, at least from how we have known him from the whole series. And so we come back to that later on. There's a couple more things here later on. But they're like, that's you never back down from a fight. You want to be number one. Like, you want to be the strongest guy here. It's like, they're like, that's out of character for you. It's like, yeah, That was the old me. That was the old me that just wanted to be the best, better than everyone. And so we kind of cut away from that, and we cut right to, again, it's this guy that lives with his mom. We've seen him before, and they take care of this pony and this little mini farm that they have, and they're eating lunch. Leave him alone! God. So the new Cerebrians pop up and like, this is the guy that keeps turning into a Hitotsky. I'm a Hitotsky, I believe is what it is. They're like, you know what? We're going to start firing darts at him. We want him to become the strongest being alive to beat up those stupid DonBrothers. And they drop a line. They said that they had this like in the beginning too. They're like, yeah, let's go all out. And then they get beat up. And then they're again like, hey, like, oh, I wasn't going all out before. And they're all like, oh yeah, me neither. So they all fire these darts at him, and they fire like 15. It was like 10 to 15 of these darts at the man. He turns into this, you'll see it on screen, but this big like crown thing with arms. And he's like, I'm gonna be the ultimate number one. I'm gonna be the king. And so he jumps over the fence to where the Cerebrians are watching, and they're like, hey, go beat the DonBrothers. And he's like, screw you, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm the king here. He starts wailing on them, and the red Cerebrian gets separated from the other two, and so he has to go through a door to run away because they all retreat, and two of them retreat in the same way, but so he retreats through a door, and so we skip right to now. I don't know if there was supposed to be something here because it was instant. Just we're going right to the Odin stand, and the new Cerebrians roll out this red carpet, set up a bunch of seats for them all to sit and talk, and all the DonBrothers are suddenly just there. All this the other Cerebrians are there, and they're all just there to eat, and they're like, why are you inviting us? And Toro drops this line of, I don't want strangers to pay for me. And everyone else is kind of looking at, like, Don Black is thinking in his head, like, something's wrong here. Don Yellow not pops up, but she's like, hey, like, you know them. Like, they're not strangers to us. Like, you know who they are. And the Brown Cerebrian's like, hey, like, yeah, they're our enemies. Like, we want to crush them. And so Toro's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I remember that. And so, they all kind of start talking, and they're like, hey, like, why are you here? Like, why do you want us here to talk? And they're like, well, we got a small problem. We got this Hitotsky that's after us, trying to kill us, so we want your help. And so he pops up, untransformed, and tells the old man who runs the stand, like, hey, like, 5, I think they were like pastries or something like that. We had the CGI where his mouth grows super big. He throws them in the air, and they all like boomerang back to his mouth, and he catches them, and the CGI. it was funny CGI. And then he's like, hey, I'm gonna take you all on right now. I'm gonna beat you all. So the 9 DonBrothers transform. I guess I don't think we see the new Cerebrians transform, but they transform. They all kind of teleport away. The old man gets blown back. Man, justice for my man here. Come on, he gets blown back. The seats are all over, the ribbons and decorations and the covers for, like, when you have to pull up the thing to go under. That's all ruined, all scattered all over the ground. And he's standing up like, what the heck? I'm like, come on, give this, what are you doing? Justice for this old man. Come on, man. That's not even funny. That's so mean. They just run away. I need to see next episode or they go back and help. Start of the episode, they go back and help. So anyway, they go fight at a different location. The king transforms into 5 different colors of himself. We get this shot where, as they're fighting, we have 2 people in cloaks. My guess is that's probably the villains from the next arc. Or not next, sorry, next series. Not next arc, next series. I know, I've kind of read up on some things, and it sounds like they're trying to, like, make a continuity and kind of, like, flow things together, from series to series. That's why, like, Zenkai's was kind of open-ended of, hey, like, we're gonna go travel the multiverse and whatnot. Like, this one feels like they're gonna kind of leave stuff open. So I don't know if we're eventually gonna get, like, another Sentai War like we had for Gokaiger. But it probably won't be for a while. It's my guess. unless it's 50's coming out, or 45. No, Zenkai's is 45. So yeah, we're 4 years away from 50. So again, maybe these, when we get to 50, they're all gonna connect, and we're gonna all have this like explosion of Sentai or something. But my guess is it's 2 villains, and one of them drops the line of, "Oh, they're so colorful." But the weird thing is, thinking about that is, I think, what was it? We have a black, a purple, a brown, a blue, and then a red. I think there might be a yellow. So I guess if you kind of compare it to King Oger, like it's not, I guess it's kind of like darker colors. So I guess I kind of get why they're like. So if it might not be, this might not be King Oger's villains. I don't know. We'll see him in the trailer next week. But they drop him. They're watching from the sidelines, watching the battle. Then we go to Toro, who we go around. Everyone's kind of getting beat up, and Toro's like, "Hey, like you guys wanted to be stronger than me? Like you're not even close to me." So he touches this. Well, I'm gonna say it. He touches the tip of his sword on the ground, and he gets this like sensory. Like he figures out like where they all are around, like best angles to attack all of the 5 parts of the king. And he one-shots him. He goes boom, 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 boom. Goes to the whole other side of the path that they're on. And he stands there, and they're all just like, "Oh my god, like, he's so much more powerful than us. He still had that reserved? Like, come on, man." And so that's, again, it's a quick fight. The ninja man who now wants to be king goes back to his farm, petting the pony. The pony, kind of getting the hair off it and whatnot. And the mom's like, "Are you seriously, for sure, 100%, really genuinely done becoming a monster and running away from home?" He's like, "Yes, I think so." Then we go to this scene of Toro walking up towards the cafe and sees all these streamers and whatnot, these rainbow-colored streamers everywhere. He walks in, he doesn't see anyone, he's so confused as to what's going on. They all pop out and like, "Surprise, happy birthday," and Toro's like, "My birthday's not for a while." And they're like, "Okay, well, no use in wasting a cake, no use in wasting, all these stuff that we already have up for you." And Toro's like, "Okay, that's fine." And so they bring him over to sit in this seat, and they start giving him these gifts. He gets a pillow from the DonBrothers. He gets chopsticks from the Cerebrians, and they say, "Hey, use it for Odin." And so he's looking at him, and he's like, "Thank you guys for the gifts and whatnot." And they're like, "Hey, like, remember how a while ago we talked about, happiness, and like, do you know what it is now?" And he starts to say something, and Don Yellow jumps in and it's like, "Hey, it's us. Like, we make you happy, right?" And so he stutters. He's like, falls on the ground and dies. And they're all like, "Yes!" He died! Oh my, I can't wait for that to be out of context. Is going to be the funniest thing in the world. If you have not seen an episode of DonBrothers and you're coming in and for some reason you see this scene on an out of context channel or whatever, you are gonna think they are the most deranged people ever, because they're cheering for his death. And then we get Don Yellow at the very end. It's like, are we sure that's a good thing? She's trying to make sure it's not clipped out of context, but that's gonna get clipped out of context. And so that basically ends the episode. They're all like, "Hey, like, he cares about us, he loves us, like, we're his happiness and whatnot." Before he died, he was blowing out candles, and they showed a flashback of Toro as a kid with his dad. Him singing "Happy Birthday," so they had that singing while he was blowing out the candles. So really nice touch. They had he was kind of sad in the beginning of the scene. I'm like, oh, he probably wants his dad to be there for this. But, we see next episode, and we'll get into that right now, we see him eating food with his dad. We see a bunch of fights going on around. Not a lot of, like, wrap-up of, like, hey, like, this story's going to wrap up here, that story's going to wrap up. I don't believe Natsumi was in the trailer at all. We don't really see. I don't think we saw a scene of Don Black and the Cerebrian White together. Again, I'm gonna make a video just on that. That's gonna come out probably Wednesday. There's a lot. We're gonna talk about the end of the series here. There's so much content that I could do for this series wrapping up. And again, I should have mentioned this at the start, but if you want me to do King Oger, which starts again here in 2 weeks, I can do that. I've not fully thought about if I want to yet, but if you want me to do that. But again, they're not, at least from the trailer, they're not wrapping up everything in episode 50, which is again the last episode of the series. So either we're gonna get, well, no, because I think it's like a fantasy world is where the King Oger stuff takes place. So we can't even start out the next series of like, hey, like they're here on Earth, because I don't think it takes place on Earth. Maybe it does, and maybe from the trailer I saw, there's like a lot of like mythical and mystical crap. Like it looked like a non-human world city that they were fighting in and whatnot, but that can change. But yeah, so there's got to be some movie. This might be a longer movie. I know what they usually do is they cut it up and they have like 230, 45-minute little episodes here, and they usually do it with Kamen Rider too. So right now it would be Geats, or it would be, half of the, movie would be Geats episode, half of the movie would be DonBrothers. So again, they could do that. I don't know, but I would love if this was a 2-hour movie and they just get everything out there, finish up everything post-series here, because I feel like it needs it. And again, maybe they could do something for next season, but I think we're just going to go right into King Oger and just kind of forget about DonBrothers and let, have the King Ogers go on their own adventures. So I'm very interested to see what they're going to do. I have not looked to see if there's a movie coming out, but I'm assuming so. I don't remember seeing any, I don't think they put trailers on the end of this, but I wish they would. Because some of the older series, they have trailers for, movies and, the next series and whatnot as you get towards the end of the series. But this DonBrothers does not. So I think that's just the website I use just doesn't do that. But again, I want to wrap up here. This is going to be like this is long. So if you sat through 25 minutes, thank you very much. There's so much to cover here. I kind of went on a little ramble at the start and, but it hit hard. That hit hard. The Don Black and Don Pink story hits hard. And then now we're wrapping up with Toro seems different. What's going on with him? So like we're getting more into that too. So like there's so many things here. The only thing I think is going to finish up is I think the Don Yellow story is going to finish up. I think we're going to have her manga publicized and whatnot next episode. But Don Blue, I don't know if his story is going to wrap up. I don't think Don Black and Don Pink, I don't think their combined story is going to wrap up. I don't think Don Red's story is going to wrap. It could. His story could, especially because he's the main focus out of the series. But I don't know. So for now, like the video, share the video around, if you subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on the episode, what you love about it. Did you hate anything about it? Again, there's some pet peeves of mine, but it did not overall hurt the episode at all for me. This was still one of my favorite episodes. So I'm out of here. Peace.